Welcome back to the video lecture on ASEAN states in the domestic implementation of international law. This time, we are going to talk about plastic waste management and trade regulation. The large amounts of plastic entering the oceans is a growing problem due to its tremendous impact on marine ecosystems. The plastic waste eventually breaks down into tiny particles, and which may carry harmful chemicals and spread across the world oceans and adversely distributing the entire food chain. China, Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines are world the top emitters of the waste plastic, making the control of the plastic waste the discharge in Asia particularly important for the protection of the global marine environment. A survey of plastic waste management in the ASEAN region reveals a trend toward using regional soft law instruments initially to build consensus for the formation of the hard law instruments. One way to control the marine plastic debris is to regulate its import and export and properly manage plastic waste. Several ASEAN states export waste within the region. For example, in 2018, Japan exported 1 million tons of plastic waste, the second largest amount in the world after the United States. Export increased across Asia, and to Asia after China adopted the prohibition of foreign garbage imports. The reform plan on solid waste import management and ceased receiving plastic waste import in July 2017. From 2018 onward, Taiwan, South Korea, and certain South Asian, the countries such as Malaysia and Vietnam and Thailand, have become an alternative destination as China introduced import restrictions. ASEAN states have adopted amendment to Annexes 2nd and 8 and 9 to the Basel Convention on May 10 in 2019 at the fourth conference of the parties to bring plastic waste that is unsuitable for recycling within the scope of this convention. These amendments on unrecyclable plastics were proposed by Norway and endorsed by other countries, including Japan, with the objective of enhancing the control of the transboundary movement of plastic waste and clarifying the scope of the convention as it applied to such waste. These amendments were effective from the 1st January 2021 for most ASEAN countries. The amendment annexes require importing country to give prior consent to any state exporting plastic waste falling under the category of dirty plastic waste in Annex 2 or hazardous plastic waste in Annex A. The COP also established a partnership on plastic waste. This partnership will provide the practical, technical, financial support in response to amendments to the Annex and Convention, as well as collect information and raise awareness on the effort to reduce plastic waste in each country and region. ASEAN states have responded to the adoption of the plastic waste amendments by refining existing domestic laws. For example, South Korea announced that in addition to the previous import restrictions on PET, a couple of the items, aside from the some exempted items, plastic waste will be subject to import and export restrictions upon the entry into force the amended annexes to the Basel Convention. In Malaysia and Vietnam, the stricter import permit standard were implemented. In Thailand, partial restrictions on unloading of the containers with plastic waste were initiated with a view to a total ban in 2021. In Laos, the imports were restricted or banned. In Bangladesh, plastic waste were designated as a prohibited import item, and in the Philippines, it was designated as a restricted import item. In addition, the certain ASEAN jurisdictions have imposed bans or restrictions on the domestic manufacture, sale, and use of plastics. For example, in Hong Kong, all stores began charging for plastic bags in 2015. In South Korea, the free distribution of plastic bags in large stores and supermarkets were completely banned and charged for from the end of 2018. The use and sale of the plastic bags will be banned in all industries by 2030, and the state aimed to switch to 100% the bioplastic material by 2050. Mongolia banned the sale and the use of plastic shopping bags in the country from the March 1, 2019. More recently, however, states have been revising their policies. The Thailand postponed its total embargo for 5 years, and Turkey withdrew the restrictions it introduced in July 2021 after only 8 years, as mechanism for collecting recyclable waste was still not in place. This resulted in the shortage of the raw materials for recycled plastic, forcing a review of the policy. Moreover, although the amended Basel Convention amendments are now enforced, so that the export of plastic waste now require the consent of the importing country, it is still necessary to take measures to ensure that the conservation of the world marine environment is not strengthened by the plastics discharged in Asia. A strong awareness of the need for the international legal system to manage plastics is being fostered in Asia. For example, on 22nd June 2019, the Association of the Southeast Asian States, the ASEAN, adopted the Bangkok Declaration, which called for increased cooperation in reducing marine debris, including plastic debris. The framework for action announced simultaneously set out areas that each country should focus on recommended activities. A call for measures to reduce marine litter and for scientific research to be carried out. For example, on 22nd July 2021, the group of 20, as you know that we call that G20, whose membership includes several major ASEAN states, held a meeting environmental ministers in Naples, Italy, and adopted the G20 Environmental Communique to renew their efforts in marine plastic litter management. The G20 Environmental Communique also reaffirmed the goal of the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision, which was proposed by the Japanese government at the G20 Summit in 2019, to reduce the amount of plastic waste discharged into the ocean to zero by 2050, and call for countries to strengthen their effort to deal with sources of the plastic waste. The communique would continue discussions on the establishment of a new international framework, including the development of a new global agreement or instrument to address the marine plastic litter, and aim to take a decisive step at the 5th UN the Environment Assembly in March 2022. At a ministerial conference on marine litter and plastic pollution for the UNEA 5 held on the 1st and 2nd September 2021, the ministerial statements adopted acknowledged the need for the global agreement to deal with the marine plastic litter. This agreement should complement and strengthen the linkage with the existing conventions, such as Basel Convention, and the approach should be based on sustainability, scientific evidence, and the precautionary principle or the precautionary approach. Since its adoption, the ministerial statement have been endorsed by Japan, the Philippines, and Sri Lanka. These indicate a growing awareness of the marine plastic pollution problem in Asia. Thus, the trends of plastic waste management in ASEAN states have been to combine initial regulations through national laws with international hard law, for example, through the Basel amendments, and soft law, for example, through the ASEAN and G20 responses, as well as seeking new global instruments to harmonize these national and international responses. As ASEAN is the world's main source of the plastic waste, a proactive ASEAN approach is required. There are signs that this is taking place. Thank you very much for your very kind attention.